Today we are going to talk upon organization. Organization is a very important function of management. Organization is a social unit of people systematically structured and managed to accomplish a task or to achieve the collective goals on a continuous basis. Organization is the basis upon which the whole structure of the management is built. And definitely, it is associated with developing a framework where the overall work is divided into manageable constituents in order to enable the accomplishment of objectives or goals. Thus, organization is a structure that enables the living things to work collectively, and in an organization is an arrangement staffed by a group of individuals who are working towards a common goal. Let me give you an example. Like corporations, government, non-government organizations, armed forces, non-profit organizations and so on. The term organization is used in the four different senses. Organization as a framework of relationships. When you talk about organization as a framework of relationship, we call that organization refers to a structure and interactions among the various job positions which are definitely created to realize certain important objectives. And when you talk upon organization as a process, organization is viewed as an active process and any management activity which is very essential for forecasting the utilization of the company's resources. We have to diagnose that organizations are made up of constituents, each of which has exclusive. Now, organization as a system. Organization is also viewed as a system, and system concepts the individuals have far-reaching effects on the others and are linked together in such a complicated manner that actions executed by one. Now, organization as a group of persons. When you talk on organization as a group of persons, it is often viewed as a group properties, abilities, and reciprocated associations. The constituent elements of a system of the persons contributing their efforts towards these certain goals. Now let me give you some need and importance of the organization. According to Andrews, a renowned industrialist of the United States, when sold his company, United States Steel Corporations showed his confidence in the organization by saying, "Take away our factories, take away our plants, our avenues of the transportation, our money, leave nothing but our organizations, as we shall establish better factories." So basically his saying on this is that he was into an organization where the structure was well structured and he could use that structure to build up another factories. Since ages and when we all walk of life, organization has been playing a very significant and pivotal role. Importance of the organization is as follows. It is a tool for achieving the objectives. Organization is an important tool in the hands of the management for accomplishing the objectives of an enterprise. Now, let me give you one by one. Facilities, administration and management. A sound organization increases the efficiency, avoids the duplication of work, avoids delay in work, improves the managerial skills, and definitely it motivates the employees to perform their duties. So when you come on to this aspect about the facilitation of the administration and the management, organization function is such an important function that if it is structured in a good way, with proper flow of chart, with the proper flow of work, so it definitely reduces the time, money and energy because it avoids the duplication of work. Everyone has a clear crystal responsibility of what to do, how to do. It has a proper accountability, responsibility structure, and overall definitely it improves the managerial skills. It optimizes on the resources and it motivates the employees because they know what, where, when they have to perform their duties. Now the second is, it ensures the optimum use of the human resources. A good organization establishes the individuals with interest, knowledge, skills, abilities and definitely the viewpoints. Not only this, it enhances the creativity also. A well-conceived and comprehensive organization is a source of creative thinking and origination of the new thoughts. Now let us come on to the need importance of the organization. It prevents the corruption. The enterprises which lacks the sound organization most of the times have the problem of corruption. Sound organization helps to prevent the corruption by raising the morale of the employees. And of course, as a result, the employees are encouraged to work with the higher efficiency, commitment, honesty, and as a good organization, it requires that the work to be very, very clearly assigned amongst the employees. Overlapping and duplication is to be completely eliminated. So, which is the star feature of and the concept of the organization. Now, it fosters the growth of the enterprise also. Good organization plays a very key role not only in the growth but also in the expansion and diversification of an enterprise. It eliminates overlapping and duplication of the efforts. In a situation where the distribution of the work is not visibly identified and the work is to be done in a disorganized manner, there will be a duplication and the overlapping of the efforts. Not only this, you have to have a coordination. The various jobs and the positions are linked together by a structural relationship of the organization. The organizational process exercises its due and the balanced emphasis on the coordination of the different activities. Now we call upon the principles of the organizing. There are 4 timely and systematic completion of the work. It is a must for every organization to adopt some techniques or the principles. Thus, these principles would be deciding factors for the success and the failure of an organization. Now coming on to the principles of the objective. All the enterprises, whether large or small, they set certain central objectives. Every element of the organization and the organization as a whole should be geared to the central objectives identified by the enterprise. Then we come on to the principle of specialization. A very clear-cut division of the labor, it enables the specialization. According to this principle, division of work among the employees should be based on their knowledge, skills, abilities, capabilities, and the interest. And this would lead to a specialization also, which would be in turn lead to efficiency, quality, and elimination of the wastage of resources. Then we have a scalar chain and the scalar principle. This principle is sometimes referred to as a chain command. Therefore, this must be very, very clearly defined, and there must be clear lines of authority running from top to bottom to the organization, linking all the individuals in the organization. Every point when you talk about the authority, it has to flow from top to bottom. That is, when you are on the top of the organization, you have the highest authority, and as and when we move down to the bottom of the organization, the authority level and the scope, it is minimized. And definitely with this structure, all the points and all the individuals are connected in the organization. Now let me talk upon the principle of authority. Authority is an important ingredient of the organizational structure. It is a tool by which the managers can create an environment where an individual can perform with a greater efficiency. When we have a principle of span of control, this principle states that there is a limit to the number of subordinates who report to one superior. Supervision of too many people can lead to a trouble and confusion, and also the superior will not be able to spare the time to supervise each of the subordinates, and it will also lead to increased complexity of the organizational structure. Then we have a principle of span of control. The span of control depends upon a number of considerations. It is easy to supervise a large number of subordinates involved in the routine jobs, working in the same room, whereas it is difficult to supervise highly diverse and specialized personnel scattered widely. The ability of the employees, their willingness to assume responsibility, and the attitude of the management towards delegating and decentralization should also be analyzed in detail while making a decision on the span of control. Then we have a principle of unity of command. This principle is basically about avoiding dual reporting. It is a very important principle. It states that every employee working in the organization should be kept in the supervision of only one boss. There cannot be two bosses. This principle eliminates the possibility of conflicts in instructions, and it definitely fosters a very beautiful feeling of personal responsibility towards the work. The principle of span of control, the definition is that each individual in the organization should be made aware of his or her responsibilities, duties, authorities, and the relations with the other job positions in the organizational structure. The basic motive for the existence of the organization is the attainment of certain objectives. Major objectives should be split into functional activities, and there should be one objective and one plan for each group of people. Not only this, the principle of parity of authority and responsibility. Responsibility is for the execution of the work. It must be accompanied by the authority to control and direct the means of doing the work. Next, we have a principle of supremacy of the organizational objectives. The organizational goals and objectives should be given a wide publicity within the organization. The people contributing to it should be made to understand that an organizational enterprise's objectives are more valuable, significant, and one should be given a higher priority to the organizational objectives in comparison to the personal motives. Then we have a process of organizing. Clear that organizing is a process. It involves the multiple activities. The detail of all these have discussed in the following sections. The first thing is that we have to fix the objectives of the organization. The top level management holds the responsibility of fixing the overall objectives of the organization, whereas the middle level management fixes the departmental objectives and lower level management fixes the day-to-day objectives. Now we move on to a very pertinent topic, that is the process of organizing. Objectives decided by each level of management should be both specific and realistic. Finding activities must be achieving objectives. Once the objectives are fixed, the strategic level of management determines the different activities that are required to be performed in order to accomplish the set objectives. The process of organization, this is a very crucial stage as it helps in eliminating the duplication, the overlapping, and the wastage of efforts. Now coming on to the steps in organizing, that is what particular steps are being followed when we do the organizing in the management. The first is fixing the organizational objectives. This is primarily the first and the foremost aspect of the organizing that we have to be very crystal clear about what the objectives of the organization would be. Next is finding the activities which are must for the achieving the set objectives. Then we have to group the similar activities and we have to put them together. Then we have to define the responsibility of each employee to carry out those specific activities and to achieve the objectives which has been fixed. We have to delegate the authority to the employees, and of course it has to be delegated because you cannot perform everything at one step. Then we have to provide the employees the required resources and we have to coordinate the efforts of all the achieved goals. Grouping the similar activities is a very important task. All the activities which are similar in nature are grouped together to form the departments, and this will also be termed as departmentalization. This leads to specialization because all the more they are doing a similar type of work. Now let me give an example. All the activities that are directly or indirectly related to the management or the development of the human resources like training, performance appraisal, recruitment are grouped together and form the HR department, because they are all related to the human resources. In this step, that is defining the responsibility of each employee, in this particular step, the responsibilities of all individuals working in the organizations are clearly defined. This would ultimately lead to the selection of a right candidate for the right job, because you are doing a particular mapping in a right manner. Again, let me give an example. This will bring about efficiency, since each individual is aware about he or she what they have to do. Delegating of authority to the employees in a situation where two or more individuals are working together for a common purpose, it becomes absolutely necessary to carry and clearly define the authority relationships amongst them. Coordinating the efforts of all and to achieve the goals. This is also one of the prime steps. This is the last and most important step in the process of organizing. What happens here? Here, the efforts of all individual employees and the departments are fetched together and they are coordinated towards the mutual objective of the organization. Let us consider a simple example where a company has decided to have one-day picnic for its employees. It is very clear that objective is to arrange a picnic. The Human Resource Department would then list all the activities to be carried out for a successful execution of the picnic. These activities would then be grouped based on the similarity. For instance, arranging for breakfast, lunch and the dinner on the day of the picnic, each member of its committee would be assigned a particular responsibility like selecting the menu and so on. Each member will then be given the authority with the assigned responsibility for effective execution. Once formed, each committee, like the refreshment committee, will then be allocated a budget to enable them to carry out an assigned duty. Also, most importantly, the efforts of all the committees or individuals must be coordinated to meet the central objective, that is, successful arrangement of the public and the picnic. Now coming on to the formal organization. What is a formal organization? There is a question mark. The formal organization refers to a structure that is designed, prescribed by the management of the enterprise. It is defined as a hierarchical concept of the subordination of entities and collaborate and contribute to serve a common goal. A formal organization has its own set of rules and regulations that are to be followed by each individual in the organization. It depicts a clear line of authority and superior subordinate relationship. Also, each of the individual is assigned the specific duties and responsibilities. In a formal structure, there are predefined objectives and the individual efforts are diverted towards achieving these objectives. According to Barnard, any organization shall be considered formal at all stages when the activities of two or more persons are coordinated consciously to achieve the definite objectives. Now coming on to the formal organizations, examples are colleges, hospitals, companies and so on. What are the particular features, characteristic features of the formal organization? 1. Authorities and responsibilities are very clearly defined. There is no ambiguity in relation to what the authorities and responsibilities of an individual are. It does not consider the emotional aspect at all. Why? Because this is supposed to be a formal structure and emotions have nothing to play in this organization when we talk about the formal part. It is a predetermined and purposefully created because it starts with a purpose, it starts with the objectives. And of course, it is based on the delegation of authority. It provides for the division of labor and organizational charts are followed. Now, we have studied till now that what the formal organizations are, what are the particular characteristics of the formal organizations. This is the time to discuss the advantages pertaining to this form of organization, that is the formal organization. 1. It promotes the discipline in the organization. 2. It provides a basic structure of division of work and responsibility. Without such a structure, it becomes very difficult for the employees to agree upon themselves on the duties and responsibilities of every individual. It gives a very clear idea about the authority and responsibility of an individual. Thus, a formal structure reduces the confusion and brings a very important clarity in the working part. The dependency is not on a single person. It decreases the possibilities and occasions of the conflict. The advantage part is what? The formal organization has to keep the firm operating despite the changes in the workforce. It eliminates the duplication of work, which in turn leads to effective utilization of resources. At times, the formal organization causes the reduction in initiatives of the persons working in the organization. It does not consider the emotional aspect and it sometimes causes a delay in the work. So, these are the possible limitations and the advantages of having a formal organization, because the scope is very limited. What formally you have to do, you have a predetermined structure, you have a predetermined goals, you cannot take initiatives, and of course, if there are some emotions interplay, that cannot be played here. And owing to this formal structure of excess of rules and regulations and the predetermined structure and the flow of the work, sometimes it causes a delay in the work. Now, we have to discuss about what the informal structures are about after having a very clear understanding of the formal structures. As the name suggests, informal structures are informal. How? They are a shadow made up of informal but often critical and the relationship between the members of the organization. So, it is even delicate than the formal part. The informal structure has its presence in all the formal structures. How and why? Informal structures depicts the way in which the individual communicates. It relates themselves with the others beyond the formal structure. The informal structure develops through the various frequent instances like having a regular interaction, lunch, coffee with colleagues. For example, most of the IT companies have an informal organization to promote innovation among the employees. According to J.L. Messi, informal organization in any human group interactions occur spontaneously and naturally over a long period of time. The informal organizations are not depicted in the organizational chats, and the informal organizations do not have any particular structure. These are the important and the vital points which have to be kept in mind. It denotes the human relationship beyond the formal organizational structure, and of course, the informal organizations are the outcome of the voluntary associations. The informal organizations develop out a personal preference, beliefs, habits and understanding. Coming on to the advantages. It is an effective channel of communication in certain cases. It develops a sense of belongingness among the individuals. The gaps and deficiencies that exist in the formal organizations can be filled up by the informal organizations. The members of informal organization, they help each other in case of unforeseen elements or emergencies. The informal groups, they forces the manager to plan and act more carefully than he would otherwise. Informal organization is a check and balance on unlimited use of authority by a manager. Now coming on to the disadvantages part. It operates based on a group psychology. The interest of the formal and the informal groups may clash, leading to conflict, making the job more difficult. The informal organizations may fall prey to the rumors, and it may cause problems by resisting and changing at a certain occasions. Now coming on to what the mechanic structure is all about. The mechanic structure, also known as a bureaucratic structure, is based on the official centralized network. The structure is ideal for organization that functions in a steady and consistent atmosphere. The mechanic structure is a very rarely changed, since this type of the structure acquires stability. You can see on the screen there is a clear-cut division. The basis is given, then the type of organization is given. When you talk about the informal and the formal organization, these are the 8 points of differences which need a lot of importance and some time of questioning in the mind. The first structure point is a basis is the structure. The informal organization, it is undefined. In the formal organization, it is predefined. When you talk about the relationship as a basis, the personal relationship is the basis for informal organization, whereas in the formal organization we have the formal relationships. So it's very, very crystal clear. Then we have the basis called the purpose. For each social satisfaction is the purpose. For the informal, to achieve the organizational objective is the function of the formal. When you talk about the dynamism as a basis of difference between the two, informal organizations are flexible, followed by a rigid format and the structure for the formal organizations. If you take the leader as a basis, the voluntary chosen is the basis for the informal, whereas a manager is a basis for the formal. Then we have the communications. If you talk about the informal organization, the communication is too fast, and in terms of the formal organization, the communication is very, very slow. If you take the nature as the basis, sentimental nature is at the heart of informal organization, whereas at the heart of the formal organization we have official. The examples are group of trekkers in case of informal, and the departments in the organization as a part of the formal organization. Let me give you a concept of what mechanistic structure is all about. There is a well-defined hierarchy. The strategic decisions are taken by the top management of the organization. Subordinates work under the direction of the management and communication, which has a top-down approach. This was the concept and the meaning of the mechanic structure. Thank you so much.